So, something slightly different. I've been wanting to do this for a while. It's a fireside chat. I actually am hot, believe it or not, but got two completely different perspectives of the industry. So, Aaron, 26 years in the industry. Josh, 22 years in the industry.
Yes.
We've seen a lot of cycles, but I've just come out of a meeting where we were talking about the impact of COVID. And when we think about how COVID changed the whole dynamics of what people thought was a resilient supply chain, just in time. Back in that time, a broker was very much deemed different to what it is today. But in one word, to you first, Aaron, you can go first on this. One word, what do you think the market is today? Gives you time to think, Josh.
Yeah. Apprehensive.
Based off, go into a bit more detail. Where do you? Because that's absolutely on point.
Because I think that if you're referring back to COVID, so COVID, the challenges we faced then weren't demand driven.
Yep.
So that they were very much supply driven due to shutdown over COVID. What we're seeing now is in the 20 however many years I've been doing it, is the closest to 2000, 99 2000, telecom.com. The closest I've seen to it, where you've got AI now that is driving the demand.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's apprehension, because it's going to flow downstream. And at the moment, depending on where you sit within that, you're going to be apprehensive on what supply is going to look like.
Really good point. Josh?
I think constrained.
And constrained, go into a bit more detail on that.
Yeah, I think it's constrained from all the way from the fabrication of the semiconductors. There isn't enough supply. The lead times are increasing. AI is driving a lot of change on what they're producing, so it's downstream effect to all the different commodities.
Yeah, I guess, and if you combine those two words and both those statements, it's an unknown mess. We don't know what's ahead, and I think the difference is COVID. Everyone was mobilizing back, and the whole supply chain was disruptive. Whereas back in 2000, we knew what market sector was driving it, and that was automotive. Is it fair to say from everywhere around territories that AI is the driving force that's having the first impact? I mean, what's your view on Asia? Is that what's impacting first?
Yes, generally you feel the changes in lead time, supply constraints in Asia first. Then they trickle down to the Americas and Europe. So I think that it's going to continue to escalate. And people start to get nervous. They start to play double orders, triple orders. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
And from a European perspective, Aaron, where do you see, when is it really going to start feeling the pinch? What's your view?
Well, I'd be guessing, but by Q3 is when I think you start to see the impact. So around March time, feedback around some of the bigger players was that lead times were falling down.
Yep.
Lead times weren't being adjusted, but lead times were falling down. Now, if you then look at memory, which is well documented, you can see then that is taking a bigger chunk of any capacity. So it's not difficult to figure out then that that's going to have a knock-on effect across other technologies. So that will hit. It's not if, it's when. If you're, I talk about downstream. So if you're not a tier one, the strategies that people deployed at tier ones if we go back to 2022, which was the last significant increase, those who had enough capital could go and secure stock in advance. Now, if you're not sitting at that top table, you don't have that type of capital or reserves, I'm not sure what strategy you then apply.
That's a good point. I mean, we were talking in the marketing team recently about coming up with some concepts about what the market could look like. And one of the things was actually having a queue for a roller coaster, because what's ahead is a roller coaster, but you can actually pay for a fast track. And where do you sit in the queue? And I guess from an Asia, and your perspective is really interesting, because you're seeing it from Asia, then you're going to get impacted in North America. Is there a gap between that impact? Are you seeing that?
There's a gap. Yeah, it's not instantaneous for sure, but I think customers are, to Aaron's point, the only option you have is to be forward-looking. And I think increasing your AVL
Yep.
is a huge opportunity. But if you're doing with the 2 tier 1 brands, it's going to be the same semiconductor fabrication plant. So you're not really gaining anything in resiliency. So second tier, third tier brands, I think are going to be a bigger part than it was in COVID, because people have hopefully learned some lessons.
Do you think so? Or we hope?
Hopefully,
No, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think people have?
in some regards, yes. But people are still placing orders with the major tier 1 brands.
Yeah.
And again, if you do an analog and a TI cross, you're probably not going to get much support when everybody's putting multiple months lead time orders out.
I think that one of the things that I worry about is a lot of people still don't understand what a trusted supply chain and a value add broker is. Yeah, there is a need for a broker to bridge that gap. I'm not sure the market understands because of what happened at COVID. People's behaviours changed. Everyone was buying online. But yeah, for the past 5 years or so, Aaron, you've been trying to push the message out through Europe. Has that message sunk in? I mean, do you think there's still a gap?
No, it's different. There's two sides to this. Reality is as time moves on now, the gaps between allocations will shorten.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the general consensus. In which case, then a broker and independent is going to be a crucial part of your supply chain, because there is no strategy you can deploy that will just smooth out all those bumps. It's not going to be possible. So you become an integral part of the supply chain. I think the clever bit, where customers seem engaged across Europe and where actually you're seen as a genuine differentiator, is the franchise piece. So what you're doing here is looking at bridge buys. So trying to now not only solve an immediate problem, but give a long-term solution to a viable alternative. And so manufacturers, where you used to put them up on a line card and people would say, who is that? And just dismiss them, now understand actually that is potential a viable long-term solution. So that, I think we struggled. If you tried to that play before COVID, you'd have fallen on deaf ears. I would say now what people have learned is, you talked about increasing your AVL. You want dual source. It's not that easy to find a new player in a specific technology. I think our technical guys and the product managers have done a great job of adding new lines that are genuine, viable alternatives.
Yeah, that's a good point, because those niche manufacturers are adding value and we're bringing that to their supply chain. But I still worry that a lot of the behaviours are, let's go online, see what's available, that'll solve my problems. Recently, well, last month, you guys opened up in Hong Kong. What was the drive behind that? What was your thought process of needing to have a laboratory in Hong Kong?
Expanding the laboratory in Hong Kong was for pure capacity.
Right.
Yeah, pure capacity. So more throughput for inspections, more inventory storage, more distribution capabilities. It hopefully is enough for now.
Yep.
Depending what the market does, may not be enough in the future. But us and our peers, we're all constrained right now in terms of being able to get enough product out the door on a daily basis.
I would add, sorry to interrupt, but
please.
I would add that you're right, it was absolutely to increase capacity. The other thing we wanted to be able to do, we play in the high rail. That's where we excel as a business. Now, when you're in the high rail, you have open door. People want to come in and see you. Now, if you're going to set up a test lab in Asia, we wanted it to be presentable, to be auditable, and we want to welcome customers into it. So that was also part of our thinking when we expanded, to make sure we had the right facility with the right equipment to the right certifications. If you're going to get those customers buy-in, then you have to tick all those boxes.
Yeah, 100%. And also, it has a knock-on effect to the customers in Europe and in North America. It frees up capacity in those labs. And I think that, we talked before, the difference between having AS6081 and then ISO 17025 to 6171, there's a big gap in understanding of what we can deliver. But you're saying the memory market at the moment, and I think we're all seeing that from Asia. We're hearing ripples about people putting prices up on back orders. So is this likely to go across commodity?
I think so. I think it's similar to the 2008 downturn and the recovery in 2010.
Okay.
All commodities impacted. That was a shortage. It's about 6 months. So we don't know how long this will last. But I feel like it's a similar type effect People are starting to put their orders in. And like Aaron said, I think you mentioned briefly earlier, you place the order at 12 weeks lead time. Right now, it's stated. A lot of times, it's significantly longer, and the confirmations are coming back at 20, 30 weeks. Well, you don't have that buffer.
No.
So it's happening already.
Well, we're seeing the same behaviour. So memory kicks things off. Then you look at the price increases across multiple commodities. Then you start to see lead times drift out, and then ultimately you end up at allocation 52 weeks, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So there is no doubt it's coming. The only thing that can derail it is if the big players at the top of AI decided they're going to pull back, they're going to reduce their investment and not invest as much capital, because that will then have an effect further downstream. But they've already pumped in big money.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to hold that quickly.
I agree, 100%, not disagreeing at all. But I think the other thing that's going to magnify the problems is the increase in defence spending. If you look at what the US have just increased, what Europe is trying to do to mobilise, and if the manufacturers have already pivoted and said we're going to support AI, it's going to take a long time to pivot back. So are you seeing some impact in defence requirements in North America?
Absolutely. It's a longer term cycle for sure for defense. They're not making
If only
cell phones.
If only it wasn't, right?
Yeah, they're not making cell phones, so it takes a little bit longer. But I think the U.S. used something like 42% of some of its missiles in 39 days.
Yeah, read about that.
So it's a significant impact. I think the problem there will be more about the golden screw.
Yep.
They may not need every component if they don't have some special hardened metal or some other commodity that they can't get for the production. So I think it's a little bit unknown on how much of an impact the semiconductors will have for that.
Are you seeing that in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, Germany, I think there's definite increase in activity, so that they seem to have gone first, and the rest of the governments, I think, they don't move quickly, so it takes a little bit of time to trickle down. So it's definitely not at the moment anywhere close to what you would say was a peak in defence spend. We're not at that at the moment. The worrying thing, I guess, if you're in the defence, is if that trickle down effect happens, it's going to hit exactly the same time as when allocation is going to hit.
Absolutely.
So that creates a whole new problem, and you'd think possibly that just nudges things to the right for the defence.
Correct.
Yeah, I think so. And I look at then the knock-on effects to the medical market, and there's EV and everything else is going to be impacted. I'm not sure whether it's going to be a 6-month window. I don't think it's going to be the same as post-COVID. I don't think there's enough alcohol in the world to survive it.
Correct. It's a once in a lifetime event.
Do you know what?
Let's hope so.
Yes.
But the forecast for growth year on year is around 62%, 64%. I think if you go back to 21, 22, you're talking about 24%. Now, as I said, they're not apples to apples, because now we're talking about demand driven. Before we were talking about capacity.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some significant increases on certain product groups that out spike what happened in 22.
So do you think it will last longer than 6 months?
Yes.
You do? I mean, I think there's got to be a tipping point. Right? I don't think we're anywhere near that. So if you were looking at that market cycle, normal supply, I don't think there ever will be, but let's just call it normal at 12 o'clock, extended lead times, allocation, oversupply, back to normal. Where are we on that clock face, do you think? Aaron?
I mean, we're not in allocation yet.
No.
Yeah, not yet, but I think we're tipping towards it. The problem is that it's already so fragile, anything else can just tip it further. Capacitors, passives starting to get into the mix.
MLCC?
Yeah, something like that would just completely push us over the edge.
So go back to 2022, 2021, 2022. What didn't happen was what's just happened with memory. So we're seeing customers pay huge multiples on memory. They're investing a lot of capital already in memory to secure supply for the next 12 to 18 months. You can't do that across all commodity groups.
No, it's not possible.
So if you go back to then, this is definitely different, right? So memory is now taking up a huge chunk of that. They've had to solve the problems, whether it be dual source or in further investment. I don't know then how you sustain that through the different product groups.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the STM microcontrollers were obviously up there front and center, but is it also then because there's less players in the market producing? I mean, is it a narrow choice with Micron, Samsung, Hynix? I mean, is that going to have a bigger impact than maybe last cycle?
I think it plays a big part. Yeah. Memory is always changing too. DDR4, DDR5, it's always evolving, and the more and more products we make, cars, AI servers, they all just take memory. So I think that is the stable part of the allocation. That'll be there for the long haul. The other commodities, I'm not sure how long those will last.
Yeah, and I think the worrying part is everything you're talking about is bringing risk into the supply chain, and managing that risk is going to be the most critical part. And I think you're right. People have understood we play a very important part of that. As you sit today, you're looking after all of the international business, and you're seeing different peaks and troughs. The easy solution would be get a bucket of cash and buy all the stock you need for the next 2 years. People can't do that. So what are you advising people?
And that is the challenge, honestly, because it's dependent on their customer base, their forecast. At the moment, what we can't give clarity on is what product groups are going to be impacted, and specifically within a specific manufacturer, what product groups. So until you've got data to back it up and you understand your customer's requirements, I think it's really difficult. The only thing that you can work with your customer on at the moment is we excel in shortages. You talk about safety. Actually, that starts before it gets to the lab.
Yep.
The one thing I think that we have got an unbelievable track record, which probably gets overlooked, is the data from our supply. If you look, the number of returns are nominal, right? And that's over years of data. So that's where I think if I'm a customer, actually, I've got more assurance in the supply than I have in the test. The test is great, and that's needed for specific industries like defense and medical. But our supply chain is very robust. So getting security of supply, but the quality of supply is going to be key. That, I think, we tick the boxes. The rest at the moment, I think, I've read a lot. I don't see anyone at the moment that's nailed it and said that's going to be affected. That's done, that's done, that's done. You see a mixed bag. Even within TI, the pricing change across different commodity groups within their portfolio is huge, from 15% up to 85%.
Yep.
Right. So, I don't think anyone at the moment has a crystal ball and can say exactly what and when.
Yeah, would you agree to that? I mean,
yeah, I would encourage customers to buy product at the standard pricing, extra supply right now. So shortages are going to come. We all know that's going to happen. We don't know exactly what commodity will be. And if you can't get some Xilinx for 52 weeks, you don't want to be stocked up on everything else at a high price. But if you get a nominal price, you're close to your standard price, I would encourage them to start to grab some extra supply there.
Yeah, and I think one of the lessons that we learned from the last cycle is to actually get some informed data. And I think data is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we've all been doing this for way too long. But if we can be informed, we've got a chance of helping, haven't we? So I think sharing that data, having that open trust to say, let's avoid those shortages where we've got to react, let's get ahead of them. That does come at a price, though, when you're talking about that stock profiling and that long-term commitment. You can't do this on a whim, can you?
No.
So is it for different market sectors? I know we talked about the defense, but what are EMS doing? Because they're going to be impacted.
Dependent on customer base. I mean, we've got EMS, tier one EMS, and their key customers are in semiconductor manufacturing. Semiconductor manufacturing at the moment is on fire, right? Because without that additional equipment, you're never going to create more capacity. So their open order books are way out there, and they cannot keep up with demand. They've got huge backlogs. So people talk about AI, but unless you're going to increase the capacity on semiconductor manufacturing, you're never going to be able to fulfill all the AI requirements. So we're seeing huge PPVs being paid for these OEMs, right, through the EMS. And that in itself, I don't know how many times recently, out of Asia, we've quoted within 2-3 days, the prices have either gone up significantly or that stock is gone. I mean, it is dynamic.
And I guess that's the difference between the EMS and we go to the polar opposite, the defense. They're making rapid purchase decisions, but they're still feeling the impact. I mean, it's moving that quick.
Well, absolutely.
And not only that is that what happens we look at the memory, Josh and I have been involved quite heavily in that over the past 4 or 5 months now. So if you look at it, what happens as well, not only does supply clearly becomes constrained, the quality of product available, particularly in the non-traceable market, the broker market, that becomes a lot tougher. Older date codes, it's not packaged correctly. We have to be far more vigilant, extra testing, baking requirements. So it really proves a challenge, and that's now. So when we talk about further downstream in another 6 months, again, that quality of product, is that going to get through to our customers? So that's going to be a huge challenge for us to make sure we manage.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially when you talk about the market cycle, as I try to visualize it as that clock phase. Actually, there's a 3-month lag from Asia to North America. There's a 3-month lag from North America to Europe. So, customers in Europe, we need to be getting them to understand they're going to get hit, and they're going to get hit hard. So how are you trying to get the message out about putting together a resilient supply chain?
Our franchise lines, definitely using our marketing tools, our franchise team, like Aaron mentioned, and just trying to be, upfront to the customer. Just be educational as where we can. We have some customers that their entire production capacity is utilized through 2027.
Right.
They can't take any additional orders, right? So constrained is multiple levels across the supply chain. So when they send a shortage, we try to give them an immediate supply, right? Solve the shortage, but then give them a long-term alternative franchise supply that hopefully gives them a different, avenue. It's the best we can do just to give them all the data up front.
Yeah, you echoing that throughout?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one piece we haven't really talked about, which is on top of everything. We talk about AI, we talk about capacity. If you look geopolitically, what's happening with wars, so you've also got issues with raw materials now.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So,
Well, who'd have ever said 30% of helium comes from that region? And I was reading an article that it's highly it degrades within 45 days. So all of that product that was stuck on tankers is now worthless. You can't store it anywhere, but you need that to produce silicon or lithography machines.
Correct.
And that would never have even come into my mindset.
So if you go back to 21, I think we said it was like the perfect storm. Well, actually, then if you think about where we stand right now with a huge driver, constrained capacity anyway, with a huge driver, then you get impacted with raw materials, raw minerals. Who knows, right? It could even be bigger.
Yeah, and I think your point also, we didn't labour on it, but we've talked about memory, semiconductors, but actually that golden screw or bolt, we're seeing some huge requirements on some fasteners and commodities I wouldn't have even thought of before.
Correct.
MRO or urgent operational requirements are as critical now as they've ever been.
Yes.
When everyone's scrambling around elsewhere. So I'm not sure what's ahead. I really don't know what's ahead. And I'm sure that each different continent's going to get hit slightly different. But ultimately, I guess what we're trying to do is find that value, give someone that foresight and that view that says, here's your short-term fix. Now we've got a long-term fix.
Yep.
Using that engineering team and the technology that we've got. But we don't know what we don't know, do we?
No, correct.
I'd love to know what's next. And I have got no idea whether it will impact everyone. But I think your point, we've built ourselves for capacity now, and that's what we can offer. So what do you see next? What's going to be, what do you have to do next to help?
For us, I think capacity is the biggest challenge that we will have. And being able to ship product to the customer's requirements and on time is going to be the biggest challenge. If what history tells you is our typical lead time, if we're going to test through a lab, 2 weeks, standard. When I think we was at the maximum in 2022, it went out to 6 to 8 weeks. That was the same for the test houses. That was the same for our peers. We're all in that same boat. So lessons learned, right? How do you increase your capacity? Well, it's really difficult, right? Because there's only X amount of test equipment that you're going to carry, because in a standard year, you will not need it. So that for us is the, I'm very confident in our supply chain. I'm confident absolutely in our sales teams and the offering that we give to that suppliers. Can we increase the capacity to the level that our customers are going to require? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, and I have a partial answer to that. I think one thing we've got to do is work smart. We talked about it earlier. We need to start looking at AI, embracing it and seeing those efficiencies. because I think you're right. We can get lots more equipment, but you need to have trained people who understand the output. And then you need to qualify those test outputs and reports. And then we need to actually, before we even think about it, move on to the next one. And we can't put any more bums on seats. So we need to get smart with what we're doing. I think, some of the things we talked about, adopting with AI.
Absolutely.
I think electronica is going to be pivotal this year.
Yeah, right. And the good timing, I think. Yeah, we'll know a little bit more then.
Without giving a crystal ball, but as a prediction, that's 6 months away. Yeah, where are we going to be on that clock face?
I think closer into the allocation, for sure on the semiconductors. I think that we're pretty close there. I don't know about the passives. I also read, you mentioned the helium, I also read that there's a lot of metal constraint because there's a lot of the aluminium and other products are...
Well, it's been hit by the Ukraine. Nobody knew what we were going to be hit by with, like you say, all the geopolitical.
Correct.
I think I would go very much allocation on some lines.
Yes.
Are people going to use the word allocation if they've got capacity up until end of 2027? That says capacity to me.
I've seen 52 weeks. To me, that's allocation.
Yeah.
Yes.
52 weeks is not quite
What
sure.
is the tipping point in your mind then? What do you class allocation? 52 weeks?
52 weeks.
Yes.
52 weeks tells me you're going to get it when you get it.
Yes.
And so I think at that point, and we are seeing product lines. We've got customers now saying that's just moved out to 52 weeks.
Yeah.
And not only that, Aaron, also at 52 weeks, the price might be 30% higher because we're doing a price adjustment. So it's very difficult to plan your production like that.
I actually didn't want to capture that, but I mean, that's the scariest thing that I've ever seen in this industry, where they could say, place the order today. We can't guarantee you when you will get it, and we can't guarantee you're going to pay that price you've got on your order.
It's a great business model. It's horrible.
Another massive challenge that for our business, and Memory's already highlighted this, is our capital requirements.
Yes.
So even on our franchise manufacturers, for them to secure positions within the fabs, they have to pay in advance.
Yes.
Which requires us to pay in advance. So that really puts pressure on that model that we try and be as flexible, as quick, as efficient as possible. But when you've got those capital requirements, you have to look at the business very differently.
Absolutely.
You have to turn. So it creates the operational challenges.
Yeah, 100%. I've had a few recent conversations about how that risk factor comes into it. In this marketplace, it's managing that risk and managing the customer's expectations. Because one of the things that we've always found is some customers know better than what we do. And they will fall foul of their sword. We're not taking that risk. But what would if there was one point you would say to a customer just to keep in front and center of their mind, what should they be thinking about for tomorrow?
I would go ahead and make your broker plan solidified now.
Okay.
So review who's on your AVL, who's approved, who's preferred, go through audits, go on site, kick the tires, make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing, do certification checks, get ready. It's like a hurricane's coming, board up the house type of thing. We actually have customers doing that now that have come to us proactively. We know this is coming. We don't need you now. We want to get you approved. So I would encourage people to do that for sure.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, I've got to echo that. And we encourage customers for all those sites for those exact reasons.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to get prepared for what's coming. We don't know what's coming, but something is coming, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I would, if I was a customer, I'd be looking at my sole source items first.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that when you've got multiple manufacturers on the AVL, then of course you actually already de-risked it. But if I'm looking first of all through my bill of materials, I'm looking at those sole source items, and that's when I probably put my time first.
Yeah.
Let me just knock them down, get them secured. Types of companies like ourselves, or even making sure that franchises got buffer, then work through my bill of materials that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think we're going to have this chat again in 3 months' time.
Okay.
And then we're going to have the chat again at Electronica. I'd love to be able to look back now and know what's coming.
Yep.
But I think I like the hurricane analogy. I might try to get some visuals in play on that. Because there is a storm ahead, and I've always said you need to find a partner you can navigate those storms together.
Correct.
There's volatile waters coming, right? No doubt about it. But I think there's still a lot of people. My concern is still a lot of people who are oblivious to what's coming and maybe think they're immune to it.
Yeah.
But it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt people, and it hurt people a lot in every shortage we've had. Industries or businesses have gone bust, and I guess what we've got to do is try to make sure that we partner with the right people and offer that value add. That's good chat. Next time
Yes.
it'll be around an air conditioner.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.